Welcome back to East Coast ATV Salvage. I guess I can properly introduce myself. So my name is Kyle. I'm a full-time paramedic, father of 3, and I tend to just kind of do this in my spare time, my evenings when I have some free time. So I buy some cheap ATVs, tear them down, sell parts off eBay for a few bucks here and there. This is only my second ATV I've been getting around to tearing apart. And I don't know a whole lot mechanically, but I'm kind of learning as I go. So as you can see, it started today, so we've been dealing with a strip bolt that I messed around with for over an hour on my last day, and I kind of got sick of it to the point where I'm just going to grind it off at this point. Done a bit of damage to the back rack getting it off, but at the end of the day, it had to be done. Its back rack's still worth a few bucks, but definitely not as much as it would have been without my grinding efforts. Success. A little melty, that's okay. So now we are getting into some hyperlapse. So today my only real goal was to end up getting all the plastics off of the bike. This usually ends up being a harder job than I expect every time. Always end up finding seized bolts, stripped bolts. Rust is a big issue here in the East Coast, plus with these older ATVs there's just always all kinds of mud and grime sitting on the bolts, which over time cause some damage, and they don't like to come out so easily. Usually when you run into these bolts, you kind of have to make a decision whether it's worth fighting with the bolt for 5, 10, 15 plus minutes, or if you're just looking at a $5 or $10 part. Sometimes it's easier just to cut it off, and if you have to damage the part, then so be it. But we're going to start at the back of the bike here, cleaning off a little bit with the air gun as well as we go, just to try to find some bolts hidden under the mud. Get things cleaned up as best as I can. And starting at the back, trying to get those back plastics off. I start off with running into a seized bolt, I guess, that I cannot seem to loosen up. And I end up messing around with it for a while, not really getting anywhere. I end up needing to take the grinder out here, right there. Yeah, and we're gonna cut a flathead into each bolt to try to get a screwdriver in there to get a better grip onto it. So basically it had a torque head which was stripped and I couldn't get anywhere with it, and now that I have the flathead onto it, I'm trying to loosen it up, but it's still quite seized and I'm not getting anywhere. So we're gonna cut those a little bit deeper, see where we can get with that. And unfortunately I'm still not having much luck with that. At the end of the day, I end up having to grind the entire head off of each bolt, and do a little bit of damage to the plastics in the meantime. Unfortunately, definitely salvageable. It's still perfectly functional. I didn't damage it to the point of no return by any means, but I had to go a little further than I would have liked on this one. But we do eventually get the piece off. So after we grind a little bit further, we end up having to pry with a screwdriver to take the top part of the bolt off, and then we're able to pop one off, and then we start working towards the other bolt after that. And this ends up pretty similar to the back rack, where I kind of melt the plastics a little bit around there, but I still left enough room where you can definitely slide a washer over and a new bolt and probably cover up all the melted plastics that I ended up causing during my bolt extraction. Then we got those bolts off, back to the back of the bike to pull a couple more off. And then the back plastics are free. Onto the front of the bike. And there's my partner in crime, Bailey. He's an Australian Shepherd Border Collie mix. He keeps me on my toes for sure. I end up having to cut the choke cable here. So I messed with getting the choke cable off yesterday, or the last day I was out in the shop, and had no luck with it. Tried again here for a few minutes with some vice grips, and I was just getting nowhere. I was just ruining it with the vice grips. It was just cracking all the plastics, tearing it apart, so I just ended up giving up, cutting the choke cable and pulling it off. Front plastics, there was a couple bolts that were definitely seized, but I was able to get off with a bit of force, thankfully. I was really hoping this would work out, and it did, because I really did not want to get the grinder out once again. Doesn't look too good on my video when I'm grinding 3 parts off in a row, but it didn't have to this time, thankfully. It just takes me a little bit of time to get there and a bit of force. And there's Bailey again, helping out, as you can see. Super helpful. Still fighting with this bolt. Does eventually come, just gonna take some time. And I think we got it. I always go into these bikes thinking it's just going to be a very easy salvage, but every single time we end up with the same issues. Strip bolts, seized bolts, taking way longer than expected. If all these bolts came out clean, this would be not even a quarter of the work to take this bike apart. And we are free once again. Just gotta wiggle this around the handlebars to get it off, and away we go. So now here we're just taking the air gun out again. I'm trying to give the whole bike a good clean now that we have all the plastics off. Trying to get all that mud and grime off the bolts, uncover all these bolts that have been covered under mud for years. Just going to make my life easier as I start tearing these parts off the bike. Yeah, I'm just taking a can of lubricant, just kind of helps with seized bolts, I guess. Just going over every little bolt I can find on the bike and just spraying it. Usually if you let this stuff sit for a day or two, it really helps with kind of loosening up any seized bolts. So it's just going to make my life a little bit easier as well over the next few days with tearing apart this bike, just lubricating all these bolts now. And very last part I'm taking off today is just that plastic foot rest on the left hand side here. Fighting with one of the 4 bolts again. 3 of the 4 come off very easily, one of them caused me some grief. But again, with a little bit of force, we're able to pull it off. Just takes a little bit of time. And there's my partner Bailey again. And this bolt actually ends up snapping off, so that works as well. So sometimes if they're seized, you start pulling and pulling and pulling on it, and it's not coming, they'll just snap right off, which is actually a great thing. Saves me a lot of headaches. And here's what we've salvaged for the day. I'm just gonna quickly go over all the plastics that we pulled off the bike. All in about, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours work. Longer than I would like, but it's done. That again is usually one of the harder parts. Now that we're getting into the fun stuff, lots of these bolts in the frame and in the metal, it comes off a lot easier than all these plastic pieces. Thank you all for watching. Again, it's a newer business for me, East Coast ATV Salvage. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe. There will definitely be more content coming out very soon. Thank you.